God bless America. Hello, everybody. I am the Talk Radio Protege. This is the Protege program. Thank you so much for joining me. I have a couple of stories to share with you today. First of all, I hope that you're staying cool outside. It is extremely hot in my neck of the woods, and I hope that you all are staying safe as you go outside today. But back to the news. Zuckerberg defends Facebook users' right to be wrong, even Holocaust deniers, because yes, free speech absolutism means that people who are even offensive have free speech. Mark Zuckerberg defended the rights of Facebook users to publish Holocaust denial posts, saying he didn't think they're intentionally getting it wrong. In an interview with Recode published on Wednesday, the CEO also explained Facebook's decision to allow the far-right conspiracy theory website InfoWars to continue using the platform, saying the social network would try to reduce the distribution of that content, but would not censor the page. Mark, censorship is reduced distribution of the content. These are synonymous. Censorship means that the content's distribution has been reduced to zero. That's what most people think of as outright censorship, anyway. But just reducing the distribution of the content is censorship. Zuckerberg's comments came the same day that Facebook announced a new policy pledging to remove misinformation used to incite physical harm. This is something that most people can appreciate and get behind, because inciting people to violence is already illegal in many cases, especially if the violence you are inciting is subsequently picked up by people in the real world. The CEO's remarks to Recode have reignited debates about free speech on the social network at a time when Facebook is continuing to face scrutiny over its role in spreading misinformation, propaganda, and hate speech across the globe. What role did Facebook play in spreading misinformation? The role that Facebook played was existing. If Facebook played a role in spreading misinformation, then your mouth played a role in spreading misinformation, because you most likely spread something that was not totally true. That's called spreading misinformation. To say that the responsibility falls on the spreader of misinformation to not spread misinformation takes away the agency of a person to be able to recognize and resist misinformation, to call it for what it is. Last year, The Guardian reported on internal Facebook moderation documents which suggested that the company flouted Holocaust denial laws, except in countries where it was likely to be sued and prosecuted. Yes, that's because even a Holocaust denial is covered under free speech. He said Holocaust deniers were deeply offensive, but I don't believe that our platform should take that down, because I think there are things that different people get wrong. I don't think that they're intentionally getting it wrong. It's hard to impugn intent and to understand the intent. Now, Zuckerberg's, this is very strange. I've read ahead, so I know what's coming next, but this paragraph is very strange. Zuckerberg says that Holocaust deniers are deeply offensive, but it's hard to impugn intent. And yet he says in the next paragraph, we are moving towards the policy of misinformation that's going to include violence. We're going to take it down if it's going to result. Then 3 paragraphs later, he says that content, referring to InfoWars engaging in the conspiracy theory of Sandy Hook was a hoax. Zuckerberg said that content would be removed if it is abusive towards an individual. Going to someone who is a victim of Sandy Hook and telling them, hey, no, you're a liar, is harassment, and we will take that down. So now it is harassment to call someone who is a victim of violence a liar. I want to ask Zuckerberg a question. I highly doubt that he's going to hear this question, but if I could speak to Zuckerberg right now, I would like to ask him a question. What if a victim of the Sandy Hook shooting lied about you, Zuckerberg? Would you then be disallowed from calling that person a liar simply because they were a victim of the Sandy Hook shooting? Does being a victim of violence mean that you are never ever going to lie again? The answer is no. I'm not saying that any one victim of the Sandy Hook shooting is lying about their experiences at the school. But if I go to a person who's a victim of the Sandy Hook shooting and say, you're lying about the color of the sky, apparently that's harassment and is going to be taken down. That's the way that I'm reading that quote. You let me know if that's not the way that that's supposed to be interpreted. The next story I want to talk about today is from Fox. And apparently Trump impeachment is going to be the next Democrat litmus test. Remember earlier this year, Trump impeachment was not going to be a Democrat litmus test because it was too dangerous at the time. Democrats were urging people like Maxine Waters to please stop talking about impeachment. But now, apparently, they can't stop these Democrats from begging for impeachment. I want to skip on down. We're going to skip over this brief discussion of the ICE vote. We've already talked about that. House Minority Whip Steny Hoyer on Tuesday charged that Trump remarks in Helsinki were nothing short of treason and marked a dark day in American history. Hoyer characterized impeachment, though, as a distraction, which is strange, while still keeping the door open for the process in the future. Impeachment, he's saying, is a distraction from winning back the House. There will be time enough to deal with other issues and oversight of the president's performance when we take back control of the House of Representatives. So Hoyer, let me spell this out for you so that you can fully understand it. Hoyer thinks that Trump should be impeached, just not yet. It should be after they take back control of the House. And we shouldn't talk about impeachment right now because it will distract us from taking back control of the House. So Hoyer, while is trying to have his cake and eat it too. He's trying to say, yeah, Trump should be impeached, but he's also trying to say, we still can't talk about it. We still can't say that we want Trump to be impeached. It's just too controversial. You guys, just please, let's win the House back first, and then we can worry about impeaching Trump. Eric Swalwell, I don't care if I'm pronouncing that correctly, towed the same line on Monday. I think that's premature. Impeachment is premature at this point. We should do all we can to make sure that he's held accountable, which would be impeachment if you believe that his statements are treason, that we conduct the investigations the Republicans have been unwilling to do. If impeachment is the case, it's because we found impenetrable evidence that we take to the American people and will be accepted by both Republicans and Democrats. John Brennan, we talked about his statement. Donald Trump's press conference performance in Helsinki rises to and exceeds the threshold of high crimes and misdemeanors. Well, excuse me, Mr. Brennan. I want to point to a document called the Constitution, and I want to point to a specific section of the document called the First Amendment. And the First Amendment says that we have freedom of speech. The First Amendment acknowledges the freedom of speech. Therefore, Trump saying something is not treason. Trump saying something is protected under freedom of speech. Texas Representative Beto O'Rourke has both advocated impeaching Trump and downplayed the democratic consequences of such an effort. Impeachment, much like indictment, shows that there is enough there for the case to proceed. Now, the case proceeding, I want to point something out that's important here. The case proceeding does not mean that the person is guilty. It just means that the people that are pushing the case think that they can get, in the case of an indictment, think they can get a conviction. If you make an indictment of a person, you think that you can get a conviction, but that doesn't mean that the person is guilty. There's a lot of factors that go into moving forward with an indictment. Having the evidence to support a conviction is only one of the things. You can push forward on an indictment even if you don't have the evidence to get a conviction. Have a look at the high-profile shootings of black quote-unquote kids by white men of the past few years, and you will see that this is exactly the case. House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi said that the Helsinki summit would increase calls for impeachment, but added that in Congress, we want to stay focused on honoring our oath of office to protect and defend the Constitution and our country. This is another have your cake and eat it too statement. What would be the correct course of action to protect and defend the Constitution if Trump is deserving of impeachment? The correct course of action would be to impeach the president. But Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to say impeach Donald Trump, so she says this sentence. Maxine Waters has been calling for impeachment for a long time, and I want to use this story to talk about why impeachment is a political tool. No president has ever been impeached. The president that came the closest to being impeached was Nixon. And you can't successfully impeach the president unless he's lost all public support. Because the supporters of the president are not going to vote to impeach the president. His opponents, if they fully controlled the House and the Senate, could impeach the president regardless of whether or not he's committed high crimes and misdemeanors. They could just impeach the president because they want to, because they have total control of the legislature. It wouldn't require any crimes. They could just do it. So impeachment is a political act, and because impeachment is a political act, that means it's going to have an impact on the way that people vote, regardless of whether you want it to or not. Short video for you today. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Leave a like if you did. Hit subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. Let me know down in the comments what your thoughts are concerning these things. And I hope that you'll come back and join me next time. Until then, good night and God bless.